All right, let's make some great sounding and super easy vocal chops. So the first thing that you're going to need is a good vocal track to use. So let's listen to what I have here.
Riding a Ruta on my bedroom floor. Something strange about the face you wore. Love you, honey, but you look so bored. What can I do, baby?
All right, so I'm basically going to make vocal chops from this whole grouping of vocals here. And so the first thing that you want to do is, if you have your vocals kind of split up like you see here, you want to group them into one passage so that you have a lot to work with when it comes to selecting vocal chops. Because basically we're going to slice all of this up so that we can have a lot of chops to work with. So the first thing you would want to do is just highlight all the tracks that you want to group, and then you just hit G, boom, just like that. But we're going to work with this one instead, since that's kind of what I already have pre-selected here. And so what you want to do is you want to mix this to a new track, because I have some insert effects here. So I want to first go to Event and bounce to new track. And so that will preserve all of the effects from here onto this. Now it won't keep the sends here, but it'll at least have all the inserts, which is what I want. So once we have this, so this is everything with the
Riding a Ruta on my bedroom floor.
boom, so it kept all the inserts. So now we want to go actually make the chops. And so Studio One makes this incredibly easy to do. You're gonna go to, so up here in the toolbar, you'll have this audio bend menu. So you're just gonna hit that. And then once you have your event highlighted, you're gonna hit Analyze here. And so what this is gonna do is this is gonna analyze all of the transients that are in your audio. But right now, if we sliced all of this, all of our samples would be incredibly short. And so some of them you want short, but some of them you want a little bit longer. So what we're gonna do is lower this down to about probably there, because that way you can see we have some longer samples like this, but then we have some shorter ones here. And some of these are gonna be bad, just white noise and other just unusable sounds, but this will kind of do most of the work for us. So once we have our threshold where we want it, then you want to, don't worry about that. This is the most important thing, make sure this is set to slice and not quantize, because what will happen is once you apply this, it's going to slice each of these at the appropriate marker. Auto fades you definitely want on, because that's going to make it to where it doesn't cut off too quickly, which might result in some popping and some other unpleasant things. So you don't want that. So make sure that this is selected, and make sure that this quantize thing is unselected, because if that is checked, then it'll basically, once it slices this, it'll try to quantize it on the grid, and it'll just be a disaster. So don't worry about that. So now that we have our appropriate threshold, we're just gonna hit apply. And so that creates all of our samples, just like that. So now it's just as simple as highlighting all of this. You're gonna right click, go down to audio, and you're gonna send to new sample one. And so now this is beautiful, because every single sample is now mapped out on this keyboard array here. And so we can actually play this. It starts on the C1, so I have my MIDI keyboard down here. So I can just start playing. Oh, I guess it would help if I unmute it. So with this vocal melody that I have, there's not a lot of variety in pitch, but we can actually fix that later. But you can see You already have the ingredients to make a vocal sample. Now right now it doesn't sound very good because it's just the processed vocals. There's no reverb, there's no delay. So we're gonna add that now. So we'll X out of this real quick and we'll go down here, and all we're gonna do is just put some reverb on here. I'll just put some vintage verb. Maybe like there. I'll keep that. I kind of like the long delay, and we'll make sure that we don't, I use this so that there's no mud reverb, so this just gets kind of the actual resonant frequencies. A lot of it's kind of playing around and finding what sounds work together, but there's one other thing that I want too, and that's going to be this analog delay here. And so I want the time to, you can experiment. Sometimes 1/8 sounds good, sometimes 1/4 sounds good. So let's try this. And I usually want my delay before the reverb. Ah, that sounds too fast. So let's do maybe 1/4. Okay, now I'm just messing around. But anyway, you can get the idea now. So basically, I could probably turn down this dry wet a little bit. But now you have all this. Obviously, you're gonna have to play around with the different samples on your keyboard, but let's play this track that I have here, and we'll see if we can come up with anything that sounds remotely pleasant. And then I'll show you how you can morph. Well, I'll show you this first. So if you, let's say you find a sample that you like here. There we go. So let's say we want to do this C3 here. And so we'll scroll down to C3. You can see that that's being played because it has the white circle there next to it. But let's say you want that to be a different pitch. You can do that super easily by hitting Edit Sample, and then, of course, now it scrolled back up. But then we go, there's that C3, and we can actually transpose this to whatever pitch you want. So that is incredibly helpful if you have a melody in mind and you found like the right samples that you want to work with, or the right chops rather, but one of them just isn't the right note. You can just transpose it like that. But make sure that you have this edit sample thing, because if you do it without that, then it transposes everything. So that is a super easy way to do it. But once you have that, you're good to go. You can mess around and get going. But let's experiment here and see what we can come up with. So we'll get to where this drops. I'm gonna mute the lead here, and we'll see what we can do. Here we go. That was my other thing that was playing. So sometimes the way that it samples isn't always the greatest, but this is something that I created to kind of go along with it, to give you an idea on how you can use this. So that's pretty much how you can do it. It is super easy. So I hope this has been helpful for you. This has been, vocal chops has always been like the most difficult thing for me to try to do. And so once I figured out this method, it has been so much easier. And even my most recent song has them now. So hopefully this will give you the tools to make some kick-ass vocal chops on your own. So go out there and create, and maybe this other video might be helpful for you as well. And until next time, I will see you in the next video.